That's Trask. Yeah, there's a big story there. So,
And speaking of big
Probably so.
stories, we're live.
oh, good evening.
We are live tonight at midnight.
D&D After Dark.
Jack Black were here, he'd go and air guitar.
I was just waiting for Levi to go full polymorph so he could go after the Frost Giants, but I was kind of disappointed in him for that.
Oh, he didn't go gorilla?
Yeah, he didn't go gorilla. I'm like, this is the perfect opponent to go gorilla.
Well, I'm working on wings for him. So,
Icarus wings?
So I can now alter all of you to add physical permanent enhancements. So a bunch of my spells are getting approved, and so if you guys want some upgrades, some physical upgrades, I can do that now. So we'll see what happens.
Now, when you say physical upgrades, are we talking like Ron Jeremy, or are we talking like...
Do you want to be able to... Yeah. Well, that's a hardware-software issue, and I don't know. I think you could make some different selections if hardware was your goal. So that's all I'm saying. So.
I feel
our
that
family-friendly rating.
I feel that Ron Jeremy's upgrade has led to some poor personal decisions.
Yeah, right. Decisions were made. Nobody's happy. That's the nicest thing you can say.
And these are not decisions that he's done recently. What with going raping and all, like his whole life is a series of bad decisions.
Yeah, that probably covers it. Who knows?
So back to the family-friendly rating.
Oh, sorry.
Is this where I say shoot all leftist military officers now? Do I say it now?
And then I stepped all over it. Yeah, I was totally not expecting him to be like, "Oh, what do you want?" I'm like, "Oh, wait, we get to choose?"
Well, so the best thing about a deity is the opportunities that are, excuse me, that are often presented when you do the right thing. Keep in mind, we also have Teddy Ruxpin in my little magic jar. So
good.
We're
Torture that mother.
We're going to turn him into an awesome power source and plug him into something horrible. Add a little electric lights for the castle. We can do some crazy ass stuff with Teddy. So it'll be fun. And we have a silver dragon that I'm going to carve up, and one of you should eat his heart because a dragon's heart is massively magical. You just have to have an awesome constitution. So whoever does should eat that thing, and if you make the save versus poison, you get an amazing permanent effect.
So I will say that these sessions are watched by James after the fact because he's like, "Yeah, you got your avian finally," because we mentioned that last time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah, thanks." And then of course, crossbow bolt out of nowhere just kills it. I'm like, "Oh."
He knows I'm gonna suck out all the blood. I'm gonna carve up all the scales. I'm gonna pull out the teeth. Dragon's teeth make soldiers, so we can implant those into the ground. I have the spell that will turn them into warriors. It's crazy. Silver dragon teeth are fantastic. It's an instant army. So we'll have about 70 soldiers. Yeah, fantastic good stuff is coming from this thing. I'll harvest this puppy like going to a Chinese fisherman's wharf. Oh yeah, it's all good.
Knight of Barsoom is saying on the chat that he needs a death ray powered by Teddy Ruxpin.
I know, trying to figure out what to do with Teddy. I'm going to have to tap on that and torture the guy. Interrogate him a little.
So what I think we need to do is we need to add an extension to the castle. I'm sure Walt can handle laying out the schematics for you. We'll just have a zoo and charge admittance with all the things you collect.
Well, I've created the first spell. I'm hoping he has not approved it yet, but I'm hoping if he approves it next time, you'll be able to see what I did with the puddings. And it is a vicious, brutal, outstanding spell. Mostly I'm in control of it. That's the nice thing I can say.
Mostly.
Assuming if it works, but it'll be an amazing group destroyer and massive demoralizer of low-level troops against them. So I'm going to try that out next time if I get an approval on it.
Yeah, and now we have a marriage by alliance with Asgard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going to be super handy. We can trade for their arrows, which do 1d10. Asgardian arrows are awesome. They're always magic.
Or could she teach our Doomguard how to make them? Because they're all weapons proficient as far as manufacture.
I think the problem is they're made by something that has a larger base natural strength than we do. So that's issue 1. Issue 2 is we can probably upgrade all your men to Asgardian, Asgardian armor. I mean, there's a bunch of things we can trade for. We want their vegetables. We want some of their trees. There's their lumber. We can get some great things with a good trade alliance.
We got some of their horny horses.
Yeah. Well, so unicorn horses, we get 2 major benefits from the effect of them grazing in the area, what they'll do to our landscape, how they actually affect. So, and I'm not sure what he means by evil. I don't quite get that. Is he inferring that there is an evil version of a unicorn and that's what the black ones are? So
No, he's implying that that's how the townies view it, not necessarily that that is in fact reality.
right, because unicorn by definition.
No, he was just saying that the black. Well, yeah, but he was saying the black ones were males and the white ones were females.
Right. Okay. So that part I got, but he also said we would be viewed as evil, and I don't mind being viewed, but we can take advantage of some amazing unicorn powers, and you can never get drunk. They're a natural detoxifier, so that's pretty cool.
Could have used
Man,
those
I
in
could have used that in
Tijuana.
I was going to say I could have used those as my infantry days. I might have kept my corporal the first time instead of the third.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, the COVIDs are killing me.
So, well, I can't continue those erroneous ways there, Knight of Barsoom, because now Lance Scorpio is married, and with Odin as a father-in-law, that just gets ugly if he gets in trouble.
He's going to be married. That's true, and he'll bust your balls. Oh, I forgot to show this when Arrow was on. So here, wait a minute. Check this out.
Looking.
Hang on, I gotta turn it on.
Oh dear.
I'll look when I get back from my. I'm just coming into the neighborhood. I was out getting sushi.
Oh, hang on, I got my thing on.
And I was getting a Thai massage. It was, yeah, I got everything. I ate all the things.
That's fantastic. What?
That's awesome.
Is it a? Oh wow! Holy Cthulhu
So it's a
box.
Cthulhu dice box, and it has some secret compartments in it, and it's classic. So
Nice.
the guy
So
who
the
did this did a fantastic job.
That is glorious. The chat was actually suggesting when Nick broke James that we might end up facing Cthulhu in powered armor.
The good news is there wouldn't even be a session. Just Cthulhu surfing is game over.
Captain Kogoso wants to know if Nick's violating curfew by being out that late.
Oh.
Look, his probation officer is very generous on recording days. They've got a whole thing with Hollywood. It's okay.
I'm starting event 19, so I'll have that sheet done hopefully in the morning. There's quite a bit of notes. I have pages of notes, so it'll take a while to get some of this stuff down. Some interesting things.
I haven't actually updated my experience. I haven't actually updated my. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't actually updated my experience for like 3 sessions.
Well, right. So one thing I was saying before you got on is I had made when you're ready to audit, I made an experience sheet so you can plug things in accurately. But I'm actually going to make a master one for all of you guys so that the experience flows from the event sheet, because I don't think you guys are calculating everything or reading all the details where there's some extra little kibble that you get here and there, and that stuff adds up.
Mine won't be correct because when we were in the last dimension, James did the whole so you get XP when you get the coins. And then after the session, if I turn around and tie that, I get XP again. So I could double dip by just donating to Anubis. Man, that guy got rich off me. But that obviously doesn't work that way because I grew too quickly. And, and now, of course, that I'm back to normal, everyone's catching up.
Well, but you, so when I take a look at my numbers for you,
right,
you're easily in 10th level. So that's why I'm saying we need to recalc a bunch of numbers. Now, the toughest one to manage is Levi, because James does not, when he's drained him, and I think he's drained him 3 times.
Poor guy.
Poor guy.
He doesn't calc where in the experience level he's at. There's no discussion of that. And so we need to go through that just to figure it out, because I think Levi is easily positioned toward 9th level. It's just stuff we got to go through.
So I actually hit 9th level today.
Yeah, and I think I calced you at somewhere in the first quarter of 10, so you're probably in a better position than you know.
I mean, I wouldn't say no. That makes James be able to have more fun with the monsters he throws at us.
Well, he is. He's upgrading the monsters, but that we were able to magic jar Teddy Ruxpin is very good, because I'm going to start using some of my bigger gems and start hauling in some great choice monsters that we can use for power sources. So that'll be very handy.
What do you think Teddy Ruxpin is?
Well, there's a bunch of different things that little bastard Care Bear could be. So I'm sorry. I'm just a little out of it.
No, it's never not right to call Care Bears bastards. I don't want to live in a world where you can't do that.
So was that armor, the forge guy, was that Hephaestus, the gods? Because we were going all
no
deity heavy.
So he has made it a bastardized version of Vulcan, a Crimson Hawk version of Vulcan. Please don't eat my paperwork. Hey, give me that. Sorry.
I tell my kids that all the time. It's okay.
Just we put a new rug out to walk out to the hot tub, and now the cats have destroyed it in 2 days. So yeah, you can't have nice things. So he called him Voland. And so because he's the smith, parked on the rainbow, I wrote down all the different things we found on the rainbow, and I have a good sense that we'll be able to, first of all, we can revisit these and do some simple quests and go find Alice in Chains, go find Glory, hook up some of these ladies and cash in a couple more favors, which I think will go well. Because Teddy was toxic, Teddy is more likely a pretty either one of two things: an apparition or a volatile undead thing. And I think we'll be able to take advantage of him as a power source.
Wait, so does this mean James is a rock fan? Because there's a rock band named Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I was just goofing around saying that, but yeah, Alice in Chains was a good rock band when I was a kid.
How cool was that Ring of 3 Wishes? How cool!
Well, that's gonna be a very valuable thing. That, and I'm also arguing for experience for you for facing down Prometheus. You didn't give an award for that, and so I've asked for one. So
oh, thank you.
Walt, they want to know what you're drawing.
I don't know yet.
There you go.
I'm just making lines.
I'm just making the lines.
I thought today was really interesting because you have James, who wrote Deities and Demigods, and you have Errol, who's one of the most famous illustrators of it, having done the cover artwork. And then it was basically James's sort of whimsical run through that book.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun up there for sure.
Well, we specifically told them, because we thought Terry was going to make it, that we were looking for equipment for him, so we were going on the quest to get armor for him, and that's what started it.
Yeah, I don't know where he kept saying, like, oh, Nick wanted a rainbow thing, and I'm like, I have no memory of ever saying that.
Yeah, he says that was a conversation you guys had last Monday.
Nope.
Who Now, if it was me, I would believe it, because I can't tell you what this whole week is a blackout for me, and I have to go get retested tomorrow, so that's just a nightmare.
Yeah, last Monday I was knee deep in finishing a novel and typing the end.
Congratulations.
That's worth a lot.
It was a novel that had been dogging me, and like I was having kind of sort of like a lot of stress, and I don't usually get stressed, but it was a deadline. And then like when I hit it, I said, okay, I'm playing for the rest of the week. I've just done nothing but like shoot guns, get massages, enjoy Nicole's company and long lunches, and just sort of like just goof off all week, because I kind of fried a circuit trying to finish that book.
Well, that's worth a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be my first week in January because I'm breaking my brain trying to get my writing back to where it was to finish this one.
It's weird. You don't think writing a book will break you, but sometimes it does. I had like, after I wrote The Savage Boy, which was the second book I had published, the first, with HarperCollins, that book was so emotionally heavy that I got like extreme fatigue for like 3 months.
Oof.
And I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I could not kind of get it together. And I just took my time and kind of tried to come back to life. And I did, but it was really weird. Sometimes books really break you. Anyways,
Yeah.
back to D&D.
Back to D&D. So is this going to be a friend of Prometheus that's going to show up in the session?
Who?
The book that you just finished.
Oh, no, this is the book that I just finished is called Strange Company. And it's about it's my homage to the Black Company, and it's about mercenaries in space, and it was long. They wanted 150,000 words.
Oof.
It's just a me project. I'm not doing it with Jason, and
That's fantastic.
you just get it, but it's just not. There's nothing nicer than hitting the end and sending it off to the editor. And then you can just kind of goof off. And Nicole got her new M4 this week, so we went shooting.
Nice.
We had a good time, man. Yeah, and it's fun. Well, it's so it's not a really super sexy M4, as in no, it's not 5.56 or Blackout 300, but it's 22 LR, which is way more fun.
Yeah, you should shoot it all day long.
All day long, and it just feels like a weapon of assassination. It's just like puff, 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 puff. Like, oh, this is really enjoyable. Yeah, and ammo's cheap for the 22 LR when you can find it.
Yeah,
that was fun. And if you like endorsement time, if you want a really good M4 in 22 LR, check out Tipman Arms. That's who you want to get. They really make they make an all aluminum upper and lower receiver. That's kind of hard to find in that model, and it's a great little gun.
So, Walt, I understand this week you had us a sponsor. So when we think about sponsors going forward, what I'd like us to consider is someone that manufactures dice, because we got to hook Levi up. His rolls have been crap lately. So if you could get us like a sponsor,
I already got that, bro. See, if you're looking at the stream right now, I got my official Hazard Studio dice that are black and gold. I can get him a set of these, no problem.
Well, there you go.
The hard part is that like letting Levi roll dice is like suddenly watching the guy in a Simple Mind work a chalkboard.
Well, he's using a computer program.
A beautiful mind. He's like, he's reasoning through the whole thing, and you're like, come on. I knew it was bad when even JR sort of gave him the hook. I'm like, come on, speed it up.
So I actually
we'll send him a dice tower for Christmas.
Yeah, I suspect Levi wrote the program that runs the dice too.
Glenn Cook, just as a quick aside before I forget, Glenn Cook wrote a new Bad Company book, by the way. So
nice.
I finished Soldiers Live.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was good with it. I'd come to where I wanted to come. I'd spent the better part of and I really like the Black Company series, even though at points it gets really long.
Oh my god, it just disconnects. But yeah, Soldiers Live was a great book. Port of Shadows is next. Can't figure out what that's going to be about, but Soldiers Live was a nice ending. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I said, okay, I'm done. Then Walt recommended Kings of the Wild. Did you?
Oh.
Didn't you?
Maybe.
You should. You sent me a picture one time. You're like, oh, this book's really good. And I'm into that now, and it's fun, but it's a bit of a bait and switch. Like you're sold, like the concept that you're sold is like, four, adventure, hardcore mercenaries come out of retirement to go on one last mission, and you're like, that's badass. I'm into that. And it's a little, it verges a little too much into sort of like myth adventure territory. So I'm hoping it'll get me back, but I like it. It's fun. It's just, I think I'm in grimdark mode right now, and it's a little light.
Okay.
Did you read Gibson's second series, the books that started after Virtual Light?
I did not. No. I think I've only ever really read. I read one of his later novels, but like, Neuromancer and Count Zero were enough to like, but I don't think anything ever lived up to those two novels.
No, for sure not. They
Yeah.
are like almost no other books out there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Soda Pop Soldier. Zing!
Yeah. Old Man in the Wasteland.
Yeah, I gotta get back to some Wasteland stuff. But the thing that the project I get back into that I'm really liking is the one that Walt loves, which is Forgotten Ruin, which is literally, like that's what we need the next game for, which it's really just U.S. Army Rangers playing Dungeons and Dragons for real. And that I think that's like right now, that's what I'm just dying to do more of and have fun with.
I
Because it's
just
fun.
finished listening because what I'll do is when I get the file from you guys, I'll usually just plug it into my phone.
Yeah.
And I just finished listening to like the reworked version, and it was weird because like I had almost like that inside track
Right.
With you guys the first time, and it was very inside of Talker's head. Like you really felt like he was the storyteller in the whole thing. And then
Yeah.
this version's a little more external.
Yeah.
But I like I like some of the things that were added, such as some of the different creatures. So there's a couple of different twists in like where I read it the first time, things kind of happen in a certain order, and the order was kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's totally rock star, and
Weren't you on serious pills the first time you read it though?
Yeah, I was on some deep drugs.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's why it was really personal. You're like, Talker's so real.
Yeah, I was. Oh my god. Yeah, because that was just when my leg fell off, so it was like.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I was
yeah.
like, holy cow! But yeah,
Well, I hope it didn't get ruined.
no, it's solid. It's rock solid.
Yeah, that's fun. It's like I said, that's a fun universe to play in because it's I love Galaxy's Edge. I love Strange Company, everything like that. But I think I've always really wanted to dive into fantasy, and Forgotten Ruin was really kind of the first fantasy thing I did, and now I want to do more fantasy. But that's not always a smart thing for an author to do, to leave your core audience. So I don't. I'm still going to write more GE, more Tyrus Rex. But fantasy is just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to read, a lot of fun to write.
Hey, because you do so much with it. You can play around a little bit.
Yeah.
So Shadow the Illustrator is in the chat right now, and she was the lady that played with us on that the Veterans Day.
That was great.
She did a map that she wants to. She did a map that she wants us to use where James chases us throughout the map with fire spiders.
I'm in.
And now they're talking about it in the chat.
Let's send it to James and maybe we can do let's do something. She's a lot of fun. I love her maps. Let's do it. I think I would like to get a map of Crimson Hawk and kind of this. I'd like to get a map of the surrounding area around our castle and kind of like the core mission initially was, hey, you're going to explore the Crimson Hawk dungeon, and then every 2 weeks James is like, but I have a special mission for you, and away from the dungeon. Which today I was a little apprehensive today, but today really did rock. It was a lot of fun.
No, he did a great job at
and he set up
stuff.
He set up a lot more because we just pissed off the Titans. So there's a whole epic campaign right there just from that.
Well, yeah, he set the table in a lot of interesting directions that we can sort of chew on.
I mean, that could be something that pops up on every adventure. Just, you're about to get the Deathstroke on the fill in the blank baddie, and suddenly a Titan appears and grabs your sword and breaks it or whatever. Shoot, I probably shouldn't say that. I'm giving him ideas.
He doesn't need your help.
No,
I think the quandary from your character is how are you going to resolve your belief system with your new father-in-law? Like, how are you going to resolve your current belief system with your new father?
right. You are actually in a different, so you worship in a different pantheon than these folks are. And so you're going to have to come to grips with.
Well, that just because you believe Anubis is your chosen deity doesn't mean you can't acknowledge that other deities exist.
I don't
You
think
know,
that's going to be
in a perfect world where life didn't get crappy at the end of Seinfeld, this would have made a great sitcom.
Yeah, it'll be.
You know, if they still made good sitcoms, you know, you'd be played by Jonathan Silverman and you're a paladin of Anubis. And like oh, Sean Connery would have played Odin. You know?
Yes, I can see that.
And then they bring in some starlet, you know, like let's say like that chick from Will and Grace, Deborah Messing, and she'd play your Valkyrie. And then, you know, like, and then every week you'd be like, it would be like the second series of Three's Company where it was just Jack and they got rid of the other two chicks.
A reminder, so I don't forget for you, JR. Remember, you have spell reflection. Those spells shouldn't have touched you.
Yeah, I saw the ion and I realized I didn't say anything.
Well, I was chatting you, trying to get you to see that window. We need we won't talk about it here, but we need a phrase that means check chat.
Yeah, I didn't see it for some reason.
I think I'm going to say beach ball, and that means I'm asking you to check chat. So.
And then, of course, every time you say that, James is going to be like, oh, they want to be Holder.
That's true. Maybe I'll say Crystal Skull, because that's pretty obscure.
Let's find a military.
Oh, good.
Flanking maneuver.
We'll key in on that. Yeah, or just say, you know, like hard copy, and then that way we know.
Either that or just say Charlie for CC. Check chat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's
check
fine.
chat. Charlie.
So
he won't catch that.
Luckily, I made all the saving throws, so it was a non-issue. But if I hadn't had that bless from you for the +2, I probably wouldn't have made a few of them. Now, does that? Well, that was the hits. Can you use the bless? Because it didn't come up. But
no, it's not actually a bless. What it's doing is it's allowing you to hit creatures that require magical weapons, and it's also giving you a temporary +2 on hitting and +2 on damage. Plus, it does elemental damage. So it was puzzling. He was shutting down a lot of things, and I think it's deliberately showing that the plane where these guys live follows different sets of laws, and that's reasonable. Most planes do, and he was making sure we understood that we didn't know how to plan for everything. He wants to make sure that I can't plan for things, so that's good.
So
I think you should eat the dragon heart, JR.
So I'm okay. We'll do it. I made the saving throws, but if I had say I had to have a 13, if I had gotten a 11, would that have +2 that you gave us to the hit and to damage have applied to the saving throw too?
Unclear. The answer is maybe. It depends. So normally when you planar travel, your abilities are stripped per plus depending on how many distance points removed you are. The Rainbow Bridge could be argued as on or off property, so to speak, of the prime material plane. It technically is above it, but it might still be connected enough that it doesn't remove a plus. So I was ready to argue that fact, but he was just kind of making my powers behave wonky, so I figured that was for fun, and that was fine. I didn't go into the argument. But he didn't give any of you guys the benefit of the spell, which was sort of disappointing. That's why you create spells, so that people can actually use them. And when I'm able to enhance the fighter set, you guys should get the benefit from all that money and research and time. So,
well, we did get the +2 to hit and +2 to damage, which had its own value.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. That was worth value. And part of it was fun watching Earl look and say, "What the hell is all this stuff that you're casting?" Yeah.
So
and I get fever back, so I'm excited about that.
Or do you? Blah, 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 blah.
He said I'm going to learn 2 new secrets about it. So that's cool.
This is where it becomes a pineapple cutter, right?
True.
Oh yeah. Well, It's well, I don't know. He said it's a purpose sword now, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
He said it's got to kill a cleric a week or something like that.
Yeah,
I think
purpose swords
Yeah. So
have two functions that make them unique. One is that they have a thing that triggers, and then they have a response to the trigger. And so hopefully the response is going to be major bueno for you. The other thing is, I would ask her to interpret the nature of the curse on the ring and provide advice. And that way, Jim will trump himself having to circumvent his own curse. That would be fun.
that'll break him again, and then it'll be like, wait a minute.
No, it's all good. I should be able to cast Legend Lore too, so that'll help us understand the nature of the curse.
So Nick, your character can do the polymorph into the the giant, right? The fire giant.
Fire giant.
Fire
So is
giant.
that associated with the sword, the sheath, or something else?
The sword and the sheath seem to go hand in hand. So when the White Wizard wanted the sword, he also wanted the sheath. So but the turning into a fire giant didn't come from a gem; it came from her. She said, "Do you want to turn into a fire giant?" I'm like, "Yeah."
And so the question there
it's very
is, are you being polymorphed, the low level look like but are not, or are you shape changing, which means you actually take on the resident properties of a fire giant? And
I did take on the resident properties the first time.
So if that's true, you did, then you can shape change, and that's actually very valuable.
So when you said Fever was sick and she was going away for a while, I thought for sure we were going to have little Dagger come out, and you were going to be a proud.
No, because I'm not a pervert like you.
Like Lance, right? Like Lance. The chat and I were talking about that today. We're like, oh, we lost Nick. The chat and I were talking about today, like, is Nick's Prometheus gonna be a daddy when Wolf comes back?
Yeah, that's a little creepy. What that could even mean. So
that wasn't even me. That was chat. I was just going with it and laughing. Oh, because they were on fire today. A couple times I had to mute myself. I was laughing so hard.
I like that he didn't kill me when I tried to drink beer. That was fun. I expected him to poison me or do something horrible to me. So who knows?
Yeah, you never know. It was welcome back, Nick. Oh, he's connecting with his audio. He's on his stakeout again.
I'm on my stakeout. Sorry, it kicked me out.
So the Knight of Barsoom says, feed the dragon heart to Teddy Ruxpin, then use the resulting what the F-ness to power a murder machine with a death ray.
Well,
we could feed the dragon heart to the Minotaur.
We could.
What would that do?
Is the Minotaur alive?
No, it's undead.
No, so it won't work. We need to. So the dragon heart is there's a bunch of different types of effects that we can get from it. And they're radical. They really will up somebody's game if they survive it. Worth a lot to us.
Well, Lance will do it if nobody else is game.
Well, it's whoever has the strongest constitution to take the system shock and then to manage the poison.
Well, we have the gem that'll negate the poison if we die.
I don't know if this is that kind of poison because this. So the description that I always remember, there's two variants on dragon hearts in D&D, and one is that it goes into your system and never leaves, and the other is that you are radically changed by it in some way. So not sure what he's going to choose, but at least I know what the preparatory function is, and we have the ingredients because I've been harvesting so much crap that we can actually prep that heart, and then someone can munch away.
Well, I will do it. I've got an 18 constitution, but if other fighters need the boost.
Yep.
No.
Exactly. Now it's a random, assuming he lets it be the way old school D&D is, it'll be a random roll. You'll literally just roll on the fly on the table.
So walk us through what that looks like, because I don't really know.
So what happens is there's a magical preparation I'll make. I'll probably need drawn, or if you've recruited me acolytes, however that's shaken out. So that we can take a couple of our different monsters and take the parts we need from them. We throw it in a mix. I've got alchemy and one other ability I need, which is potion making. I can make the mixture, take the heart, you chomp away, and then you'll immediately save or die. And it's a terrible save. I don't quite know what the minus is, but it's high. So we're going to want to have a cloak on you and a ring on you and a bunch of other stuff on you so that you can try and survive it. Assuming you survive it, then you roll on a special table that will affect you physically and permanently, which is pretty cool.
What
It's
kind
like
of
a potion miscability effect. It literally takes some function, sometimes of the actual dragon in question, and transfers that into you. And so that can be cool. Breath weapon, armor class, armor type, resistances, immunities, spellcasting capability, language capability, domination, fear, flying, all sorts of different properties that get rolled into what a draconic is. And,
Witty at cocktail parties.
yeah.
So they're not being nice to me in chat. They're saying that my Lance needs to be retired to the castle only, so he has less things to impregnate.
Yikes.
So I said that Lance will behave or else, so saith Odin. And their answer is most pagan deities couldn't keep it in their pants, so that's not much of an argument.
Yeah, Odin was sort of out. Odin and Zeus were looking for dates pretty often.
So for this is for you, Nick. I told him in chat when I thought they were joking that Lance was going to become a god. And I'm like, maybe I could become a god before Prometheus. It's a race to the finish.
I don't know. You've had enough interactions, and now you're sticking it to the daughter, and that's you're halfway there.
Yep, you're making prodigy. More. God, you've got so many kids that you can play as NPCs. That's awesome.
Well, so most of them we left in the other dimension. The ones that came here, only the one survived. Because remember we sent all the baboons that were pregnant and the wolves that were pregnant after the peaceful travelers. You called that one, Nick. He was like, no, they're just pilgrims, and you murdered them.
Yep, as it should be. Bye.
Yeah, we've shown up at midnight in KKK costumes to be your friends. I'm like, I don't think so.
In KKK costumes.
They were. He said they were all like in white robes and at midnight, and they had torches. I'm like, what kind of psychopath does that? So I killed their leader with poison.
I was waiting for you to poison some things today. I almost said something. I'm like,
Sometimes I don't poison things because I have to if I do it too much, he gets upset about it, like poison and turning to stone. So now he's had like 2 weeks where I've been able to turn anything to stone. So sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. But then sometimes you got to use it, so I don't know. His next trick will probably be to steal my sword.
And then we got to go get it back.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
artifact sword.
So let's talk about that kind of stuff. So so you've all three done the whole dungeon master thing. So what kind of things do you avoid that would break a game? Because I've heard that joked around before outside of the circles. Oh, you don't want to break the game. So what does that mean?
I was a horrible dungeon master, so I don't know.
It's like, you get a new car, and you get a new car, and you get a new car.
Pretty much. I was like, hey, anybody want to play D&D? And later, 2 hours later, everyone was 6th level. So yeah.
That might be a little heavy.
Yeah.
You want to hit that one, Andrew, or you want me?
Breaking games, I would say the easiest source of breaking games is unmanaged party conflict. You tend to find that people who take evil alignments or someone who is cursed or charmed or subjected in some way to attacking another party member to death can create a complete meltdown of a game in real time. There are lesser and greater types of violence that can be done from one person to another that in-game can quickly unravel not only the campaign but the individuals playing, and it creates one of the hardest things to recover from because it's so personal. And most people hope that the time they've invested in the characters that they're playing doesn't create emotional reactions, but my experience is that it usually does.
So is that
Yeah.
why they
No, go ahead.
say in the early games when James talks a lot about, oh, this you go through this door and you lose all your stuff, was that just rebalancing the game constantly? Is that what that was about?
Uh,
No, I think that they at the time, like, they were different. Like, they had come from wargaming, so they were more used to having units and things die. And then obviously Gary, sort of seemed to be this larger than life figure that could kind of do whatever he wanted and didn't get challenged. And so if you wanted to play in the game, you just kind of had to accept that you were going to die and things like that. I think it's, in my opinion, it's not till later when kind of D&D gets out in sort of groups of friends that there suddenly becomes this sort of like desire to build and craft your characters, identify with your characters. And then of course, everybody's, people who play games have some odd communication skills and habits and personal development. They're not the most self-actualized people, but maybe they're exactly like, the hometown ball team when they lose a game. There's a little bit of rage when you do a lot of work and it suddenly gets wiped out. And that's why, the DM can't necessarily be an adversary, but he can't be your friend. In a perfect world, he has to be the total arbiter of the rules, and call balls and strikes, and that's the way it is. Because it's weird if you cheat either way. Like, and James asked me that one time. He's like, and he's asked it to me privately too. He's like, "Do you want me to fudge the rules?" And I said, "No. That would make the game not fun. You have to kill people and you have to let them win, and that's how it is." So that's my half-assed answer.
Okay.
You were gonna say something, Andrew?
no, I'm fine.
So Knight of Barsoom is suggesting one of the new side quests, the quest for Karen, the new Crimson Hawk adventure.
I think Fever is an awesome. I think we've all missed Fever, don't you? All the free identifies and free detect magic and free wisdom. Jeez, oh peace.
I think we just missed the chaos that you bring with it more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. My lusty quest for gems. Walt, did you like playing your new character today, or are you happy to get back to drawing?
I'm good either way. I mean, the fun thing about playing a new character is, um, you get to explore a different side of something and I tried because I didn't know whether or not we would have somebody like Carlos or our paladin back, and it was so there was still a little cleric going on, but the idea behind the character was a cleric who had been forced to become a fighter, and rather than being the guy that's all up front, he's the guy that, if you need healing, come back here, but I'm going to be lobbing arrows over your head when it's all going down. So that was kind of
Yeah.
a fun way to explore that. Plus, I get to play around a little bit. So my friend Chuck Rice, when Osric came out and people were, this is when the whole D20 boom was going on and nobody was really sure what you could publish and what you couldn't. They developed Osric, which was that product that we were giving out today,
Mm-hmm.
and he came up with something called Osric Unearthed, where he took like some of the cooler bits of the fringe elements of first edition and he kind of expounded on that. And one of the things he did was, rather than the really wonky martial arts that was in Oriental Adventures, he created a martial arts system that was very cut, dry, easy to learn, too easy. And that's one of the things that the new character has, is he's got a martial arts system. He's a martial artist who is an archer, and some of the things that he can do, like you guys, Levi and what do you call it? Prometheus are both archers, and they have bows, and they know that, for the most part, unless you're using a longbow with sheaf arrows or war arrows, you're pretty much relegated to 1 to 6 points of damage.
Yeah.
But I'm dropping 12 points, 13 points, 16 points of damage because of some of these martial arts skills, and he's specialized in the bow and has proficiencies in martial arts, so for the bow, so you can do a lot of damage at range, but also the benefit of being a dual classed uh, former cleric is you still have access to some of those abilities. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was nice to kind of be able to just like thunder hump my way through a couple of enemies, because
Yeah.
Drawn isn't really. Clerics are good fighters, but they're not great fighters. You still get that support role, which is I think a great character for me, especially running the stream, because I
Yeah.
can kind of sit back and I don't have to devote as much attention. But yeah, it was definitely cool to get to play around a little bit. I'm kind of interested to see like what that little figurine I ended up with is.
Your image, the image of Arden.
Yeah, that would be neat to kind of figure out what it is and what it does and stuff. But of course, the whole when Odin asks you, hey, you guys did a great job, what do you want? The only thing I could think of is I want a second chance on the battlefield. I want to be able to put one more arrow into the target. I don't necessarily have to live through the experience, but I want to be the guy that drops the hammer on somebody, and that would be that, for a story element, that's that. One of the coolest campaigns I played in was Warhammer 40K, and I closed out the campaign by sacrificing the character, and to this day it's like one of those memorable moments. You just like, and it saved the rest of the party, but like it was one of those moments where you were like blaze of glory type deal, and it's stuff like that in a game that you remember all the time. So hopefully it'll be that kind of deal.
So
Shivers.
Captain Kilgosha wants to see a necromancer as a walk-in on the party, and he's also surprised that nobody, especially Crow, asked for immortality.
Well, Prometheus would already tell you he has immortality.
Because Prometheus is
But
insane.
again, yeah, he's insane. So yeah, you think he's insane, and that's a good answer. But he has a whole nother answer, and you'll find out about those in books that we'll be releasing next year. but
So
so he would already say he's insane. He's just playing the game with you.
so Walt says that he froze too. He didn't know what to ask because he was put on the spot. So I did that, and I offended half of the global population. So I would say, as the two of us went, Walt wins this round. I like it.
I thought I thought it was kind of. I mean, I don't mean to say like I'm the winner, but like I thought it was pretty cool to say, "Give me what's in your pocket."
That's awesome.
What were you thinking with that? So let's talk about that. What were you thinking?
It's Odin,
I was just,
no matter what he asked for.
Yeah, it's got to be something interesting in there, And I like random stuff, and I kind of saw what James was doing. He would listen to, like I think what did he give Levi? You get 2 bracers that'll prevent you from, not dying twice. Well, that's good, right? That's a good.
No,
thing.
being energy.
Or no,
That was,
not being energy drained. So, like, it's kind of a bummer for him as a monk because, like, he's not going to have defensive bracers. He's going to have bracers that just save him from getting killed. Well, if he would have asked for like bracers that increased his AC, or his attacks, or if he'd have asked for like gauntlets of, fire giant strength or something like that, like he would have done more damage and not died. He wouldn't need to worry about dying or something like that. So I thought it would be more fun to let James come up with something. And then I figured, like when you go into a sushi restaurant, you say to the chef, omakase, I'm in your hands. You decide.
Yep.
Yeah, you're probably going to get something interesting as opposed to give me a California roll and put some jalapenos on it.
All I'm saying is fish should be cooked, and we'll leave it at that. So Knight of Barsoom says, of course Prometheus is insane. He puts ranch on burgers. And and Nick was channeling his inner Gollum.
Yeah, no, that was yeah, no, I was very surprised that he ponied up a ring of 3 wishes. So that's pretty cool. That's a fairly powerful item. I
was thinking he'd be like, "Oh, you get this dryer lint."
Yeah, yeah. Just here's here's a copper, like, and but James is fun, like he was nicer to me today than sometimes he whips me a lot, but like today he gave me an extra ability point. That was pretty cool.
So what?
I got yeah.
So what level are you now?
If I do my experience, I might be getting close to popping seventh or eighth. I bet I pop ninth thief. I don't know. But like I said, I've been so busy. I haven't done my experience for like 3 sessions. So, but experience is so huge at these levels, and we're not even to like. I think what is it after 10th? It starts being like 100,000.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? Yeah, it's just brutal. But this is the highest character I've ever had. And I think the cool thing is like when you hear people play like 5th edition, they're like, I have a 22 strength and I have a 20 thing. Like my old school D&D mind rebels at that, because it really is like when we were all talking about Kellic this week, because I found this old picture of some of the original TSR characters from the cartoon show, and Andrew was informing us what they were. If you looked at Kellic's stats, what was he? He was like a 7th level chaotic evil sorcerer, right? But he's got like, I think he's got like a 12 intelligence or something like that. All his stats suck, which is really how old school D&D. No one's supposed to have 18s. Like
you had 1 or 2 heroic stats and everything. Like, I mean, if you look at mine, 3 of my stats are total dump stats. I have an 8, a 9, and a 10.
Yeah, and I'm like, but even then, like you like no, like the way that we played when I was a kid, like no one had 18s. That was rare. So like I still have that mindset, and so when you've done like I've gotten 2 skill point increases, one, and I spent one on going to 19 decks. Oh, my gloves give me a skill point. That's what I get, and now I have a 20 dex. Like that's pretty incredible. Like that's a very rare thing that doesn't exist. In old school D&D, it shouldn't exist. It doesn't exist much. Now I know we've gotten into this whole like, which I need to do with Andrew this week. Like adding numbers here, but D&D wasn't originally that way. D&D was 3d6 originally, and if your fighter had a 14 strength, that's what you had.
Yeah, and you were a rock star with that 14 strength.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
an original true old school is you get 3d6 6 times in order. So roll for your strength. You got this. Roll for your this. And after you rolled, then you chose your class based on what you could pull off. Okay, you need a 9 to have the class you want. You got to do this. Oh, you want one of the special classes? You have to have 3 good rolls in the right slots. No easy trick at all.
Yeah.
So is 2E not considered old school?
No, it is old school, but like originally
it's debatable.
It was, yeah.
It's so the change from secondary skills to non-weapon proficiencies was a much needed change that still angers a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at true old school, they say it's either D&D or the first pass of a D&D. So Advanced Dungeons and Dragons were the first 3 hardcovers, and that's as they were trying to march Aronson out the door, because Aronson, in the lawsuit, the way he got compensated was for his co-creation of Dungeons and Dragons. And so Gary stuck Advanced on as a way to start marshaling him out the door and not get the same kind of comp.
I see.
Okay.
I did not know that story. It's crazy how the sort of bad blood between a lot of them is.
It really is, because the history behind what was created and the unfortunate dividing lines of how people think of it is a big struggle, and that ultimately is what I had to reconcile when thinking about all the different versions. In the end, to me, I'm just happy people play the game, and am less focused on the variant that they play, that people get out and get involved, and that's exciting to me. Yeah. I like that people want to play this game again, and I like that more and more people are trying to figure out how. So I don't care about editions anymore. Those things.
And in your world, in your war guild, you guys play sort of a mixture of first and second, right?
Well, we hybridize, so our rules are arduous at best. in the sense that it's primarily first edition with a bunch of second edition rules in there. And every year after the survey, we vote on what mechanics are really intolerable. Encumbrance, very hard to use. Lots of places where it makes sense to use, just it's a game slow. And when you're gathering a lot of people around a table for a limited period, things that slow the game down. The best thing about what we're doing is the show aspect helps you understand how to manage time better. And I think that's good for gaming in general. And so, just like with tournaments, there's a whole host of arduous rules that I don't bother with. Speed factors I don't bother with. Encumbrance I don't bother with. Speed factor is every weapon you have has an assigned speed factor, and those get calculated in to your initiative score, and that determines where you fit in the line. So, for example, me with a dagger versus you with a two-handed sword, I'm hitting you with that dagger about 4 or 5 times before you've brought to bear that monstrous weapon if you use speed factor. The same with encumbrance. We'd carry a couple of things and we'd be moving at a movement of 20. We'd never be able to retreat. We would just be lumbering forward like turtles. So that's the kind of stuff that we discard. But we're also discovering that some of the basic mechanics, opening a door, right? A character, an incredibly muscle-bound character, fails at opening a door. His next roll, excuse me, is at a loss. Whereas in later editions, they said, you know what, take 2 people, and they both go at the door, and they both roll, and the one who makes it, that's a success. And so a lot of things should be streamlined that just aren't. And so we spend time on using first edition as our bread and butter, but taking the advantages from other campaigns and voting them into our process. And that's become, makes for a much better game.
Very cool.
Well, I
So,
signed
JR,
up.
can you give us a taste of what we're going to have next week?
I can't do that without ruining the surprise.
Well, they would at least say on the back of the module, like, there's some slave pits over on an island,
All I'm going to say is a character that was played in the other dimension is going to come into this one.
Character that was played by who?
Who played it in the other dimension?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, I see. Is it the girl we murdered and stuffed in the bag?
Wait a minute. I thought we signed that NDA. Do those not work the same in California?
No.
No. It's well, no, I can't tell you because it would ruin it. And part of the fun of this. Well, if I told you that, it would ruin it. And part of the fun is going to be your reaction.
Okay.
That's why when I went.
Oh, was it your dwarf? You had a dwarf, right?
That was one of them.
Okay.
So when I planned this, I intentionally went to Andrew and Walt because Walt's always distracted running things because I wanted you to be pure you for your reactions.
Okay. I'm not self-aware enough to understand what is pure me, but I'm keen for the lesson.
It should be fun. Although
Yeah,
I will say that because my experience with gaming before you guys and Gamma World and all that was mostly Skyrim. Well, Elder Scrolls in general.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Walt keeps reminding me, he's like, this isn't a video game. Those mechanics are already built in. You're going to kill everyone in 5 seconds.
I know that you're going to have like a trap where like a rusty ball swings from the ceiling.
I totally wanted to put that in our defenses for the well, but Walt was like, no, stop. Just stop. I think I probably owe him a couple cups of coffee for that.
He hits me up and I'm at work and I see my phone going off, so I grab my little Bluetooth keyboard because it's probably somebody's gonna chat a little bit, and I'm like, all right, let me type this out real quick and see what's going on. You want to put what where? I'm like, whoa, dude, no, you can't do that. Well, it works in Skyrim. I'm like, these mechanics don't translate. I said, the video game does that for you. All these mechanics. I said, you're. I said, all right, so this one fight, the way you want to describe this one fight would take anywhere between 2 to 4 hours to adjudicate one fight. He's like, well, why? I said, I said, well, here's the problem. You have to read the rules. If you're not reading the rules, your basis for this is your own die rolling as a player, and then something like Skyrim. So while you're saying, while you're on one side and saying, I want to put this right here, this would be a great fight. Well, yeah, it would be a great fight, but all the dice rolling and calculations you're talking about to adjudicate this great fight leads you to 2 to 4 hours of actual time just sitting there and rolling dice. And then there's this aha moment, like, oh, okay, maybe we might, and we've all had it, because like when we were first starting a game, like way back in the way back, that's something we all did. We were just like, this is going to be cool, I'm going to put it in there. I put a freaking troll at the entrance of a volcano when I was 13, not, and it's like, no, you can't do that. Why can't you do that? This would be a badass monster to have in the front of a cave. Yes, but the cave spits fire, dude, and these things regenerate. Fire is the enemy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, where does it say that? And eventually you have somebody come up and slap you around a little bit, and it's like, all right, dude, stop working. This is first edition AD&D, and they're like, all right, stop working solely from the DM's guide where the monsters are, because they don't give you the descriptions. This is the monster manual. This is where you need to start, reading up and blah blah blah. And eventually, you start getting the tricks and the tips and the whatever, But you need that like one dude, the guy who, and it's one of the reasons I really like Osric. Because it encapsulates that first edition feel, but also one of the guys that did a lot of the indexing was my first DM.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Dave Prada, right? Just rock star DM. And he was the guy, when I was DMing, he'd be like, no. Come here. And then when you're just like, no, but I can, he'd grab you by the ear and be like, no, you can't do that. So we've all had that moment where we're just like, but I want to put it in because it's cool. And it's like, you either got one of two ways. Way number one is, yeah, it's cool, but all your players are going to die. Or way number two, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's cool. I hope you have 12 hours put aside, because that's how long it's going to take to get through that adventure. So yeah, I definitely know where I know the tortured artiste that JR is right now, and hopefully he will lean on all of us so that we can help him during the session.
So I started, I've been reading the player's handbook a lot, because I'm just through playing trying to get ahead, and I was trying not, and I've already spent over 40 hours on this stinking session, but I'm trying also not to make this my full-time job, because Jason said he'd skin me alive if I didn't turn in the reservist too by New Year's. The come to Jesus talk from him, or no, excuse me, come to Oba. So I was trying to balance that. So Walt showed me some shortcuts. So I was trying to, because I don't fully understand the whole magic system in the game, trying to keep it as mostly a brawl where we can make tactics matter a little more. And
you'll do great, and we'll help you along, and we're gonna explain the premises, that you're a first time DM, and this is how easy it is. And then we're just gonna rip you to shreds.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna try to break. I'm just gonna try to break you like I did James. Look, I broke one of the greatest DMs in the business. I can snap you across my knee with just a thought, JR. I mean, you're in trouble, man. I wouldn't sleep for the rest of the week if I were you.
So yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then I figure, assuming everyone doesn't hate it, I'll try another session another time where I can factor in more of the magic. Just do it in baby steps.
Very optimistic. You're very optimistic.
Of course, I could get booed in the chat.
Look how much they hate on Jim, and he's been DMing for 40 years. No, you're gonna learn. No good deed goes unpunished. Ask Andrew. You sit down as a DM and you make a dungeon, and you're like, oh, they'll have this much fun. Look at this treasure. This will be really great. And I've just made this whole world. And when you put the final touches on the map and you've written the last room and all those kinds of things, every DM should say to themselves, like every Roman general on Triumph, with the slave in their ear, The slave should be whispering in the little goblin slave should be whispering in the DM's ear. This is as good as it's going to get for you.
Memento mori.
Yeah, yeah, because now the players are going to come in and they're just going to ruin all of it, and they're going to ruin you, and they're going to be mad at you, and they're going to cry, and they're going to whine, and they're going to argue, and they're going to advocate. They're going to try to break it. You're going to say, "Oh, look at this great fight that I have set up, and I can see the rounds and the encounters that it will take, and the swing of the sword and the clang of the shield." And they'll be like, "Maybe we could like polymorph a bird into a giant thing of snot, and then they'll all be stuck, and we could light the snot on fire." And they'll be like, "Yeah, but snot doesn't light on fire." And they'll be like, "Well, I
It
saw
does
it one
now."
time. Like, oh, how come? Like they will figure out every way to screw everything because that's how you win. It's figuring out how to screw the DM, right, Andrew?
Well, I had one of the things we do is we have what are called crossover sessions, and usually once or twice a year. People in different campaigns encounter each other somewhere in either circumstances in a dungeon or circumstances outward. And that takes a lot of coordination. So 2 weeks ago, we had a great crossover plan for just before Thanksgiving. 2 different groups found a day they could agree to meet. They had encountered a magic item. It brought all these people together who hadn't seen each other in 30, 40 years. They're all showing up on the Zoom session, 16 people. It's a huge adventure, planned it forever. We get ready to start going around the room. People are describing their actions. A guy takes out an item, and it literally banishes the 8 people who were coming into their session as a crossover, literally within 3 minutes of the beginning.
Why did he banish
all
them?
this time to coordinate all this, gone, done. That was it.
Did he do it on purpose?
He didn't have any idea what he was doing.
Oh, wow.
And so that's, well, actually, that's not true. He thought it was going to do something else, but he didn't know what he had. And so, as a DM, the thing I was saying to JR is D&D is really called the game of bad decisions, and how you recover from those. And as a DM, the most important thing to do is once you put everything down as a map, the map is just a guidepost. I ultimately don't use a whole lot of material. It's mostly in my head so that I can freeform it. I have an outline, and I have the images of what they're getting or where they're going, and I do the rest from outline so that it doesn't require a lot of stuff. Hit points, armor class, basic damage, those things are all factored and calculated, but a lot of it is just in my head so I can roll it forward. And the dice, the thing I always find very valuable is to let the dice, half of the fun is blowing a roll. And I truly enjoy failing things just to see what happens.
Yeah.
So.
And I would just say, just remember, JR, at the end of the session, we will all look at you and we'll say, thanks for nothing. So are the expectations sufficiently low? Like, you can't win. So now you can have all the fun in the world.
It's true.
Yeah, I wasn't. Although when he told me that the game of bad decisions, I'm like, I made an entire infantry career on that motto.
You'll do great. If you want to do a practice session, I'm happy to get together with you this week. And I think just as a performer, an actor, and also there's an army application too. The step-by-step method, the walkthrough, and all that kind of stuff. You should walk through actually, right? Because it's like, how do you start? Well, okay, you're in town. There's a wizard, and then someone's like, I want to meet Snorkel the Goblin.
Right.
So you might want to walk through a session. Even if you just do it yourself. Go ahead.
I was just going to say my favorite was always spend the 32 hours crafting this amazing adventure, and somebody goes, no, I don't want to go that way. I want to go chase that bear.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Out in the woods. Whee!
Yeah. But
I see that's what Andrew and I were doing this morning before the session, and his many other obligations. I don't think that guy ever sleeps, Andrew, but he's been helping me do that, and he's showing me some of the ways you can sort of do those test runs to see if the game session works.
Oh, okay. Well, then I think it's going to be great, and you got Shaps there, man. That was your dream to have to DM a famous Green Beret. So
He's my favorite snake eater. So
yeah, so
that looks great, Walt.
You can let him down on all kinds of levels.
He's like, you would have never made it through selection.
Failure to impress. No go. Oh, did they still say that in your time?
Yeah, you were a no-go at this station?
Yeah.
I just like that Captain Kogosha is typing in the chat. Hey, Sergeant Hanley, don't you got a book to write right now?
Yeah, they started that at the last Galaxy's Edge podcast. It's like, hey, sure you should be here? Shouldn't you be writing?
I think it's funny that Jason says that because Jason was late this week on turning in a book.
Uh-oh.
And his computer dumped 15,000 words.
Oh, no.
Crying for him. Ouch.
Yeah. So he called me and I was all, oh, that's too bad.
Now let's talk about me.
More about me, Jason.
I was gonna say, wow, that sucks. Maybe you should come play D&D this Friday.
Yeah, it's so weird because like he told me why he wanted to play D&D. It was a really good reason, and then he's like, I'm going to start playing more, and I'm like, okay, well, we're here every Friday and have been for like we've been doing this for the better part of a year now, right? Like we were playing with Jim and Gamma World and everything like that. Like we're there every Friday, and he's like, I am going to be there every Friday, and like he's never shown up again. And he was
scare him?
With such. Well, I don't know. Maybe like Jane, like who's like at your first session you get a vorpal blade. Like it was almost like when I was a kid. There was this game store. It was called I Love Games, and like I said, there were all these older college age kids that hung out there, and they were always trying to get you into some weird game, And the way that they would maneuver you into playing their specialty game that they loved was to like so there was a game called Starfire, which was like Starfleet Battles Light. It's really fun. David Weber actually wrote for it. So I remember sitting down. He's like, "Hey, you want to play a game of Starfire?" And I'm like, "What's that?" I play Starfleet Battles. He's like, "It's better." And so like 12-year-old me is like, "Sure, whatever." And because he wanted to have like a campaign, like he wanted to lure in enough players to actually do like a galactic Civil War campaign. It was a huge thing, and I actually still know people from that campaign and get together and talk with them, and we still laugh about it. So he would sit down and he would lay out the map and teach you this game, and then he'd let you win like 2 or 3 sessions. And then he'd be like, "Hey, we're forming a campaign. Do you want to play like the Zodani Alliance or whatever it is?" You're like, "Yeah, I'm so good at this. I should."
Little did you know.
Little did you know. And then you spent like 2 weeks getting ready for the campaign. Everybody in the store was really excited. And then come Saturday, you'd sit there, and then here were all these super high functioning math majors, getting ready to play this heavy number crunch game. And within about 2 hours, your entire empire was gone. And then they went on to play for another 6 months in this campaign, but they just needed a lot of cannon fodder. So anyways, I don't know where that story was going, but I do like to tell it.
Author J-Mac just hit me with a blast from the past, and that's Riffs.
Yeah. Riffs, yes.
Great
Riffs. Game. Yeah.
I loved John Zalesnik's art.
So great.
Long's art. I mean, just oh god, some of the artwork in that game. You just had to buy the books just for the art.
Have you ever played a game where the game didn't live up to the artwork?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's kind of a bummer, huh?
And I'll probably get tons of hate for it, but Shadowrun.
Yeah, that's true.
Amazing artwork, incredible vibe. Really, really cool backstory. The whole bringing in the Aztec culture into things was just, oh my god, just all that artwork was sublime. And then you played it, and it's like, no, well, you got to have a planning session before you go out on a run. And you got 4 hours to play this game, 3 hours of planning, and then your characters were dead before you even entered the building because your slicer netrunner didn't take on a whole bunch of black ice like he should have and got iced. So you walk in the building and the security's still active and you just toast it, and it's like all that and for nothing, and like tables and charts, and it's like, oh god, this is too much. Too much.
I go back to my favorite game besides D&D for tabletop for like RPG. It's still Recon, man. That game was
Oh
great.
yeah, Recon was cool.
Uh, I still like hunt eBay for the original rule book.
Yeah, Recon was tight. Did you ever play Twilight 2000?
I never did, and I wanted to. And like, it's so my jam. It is so my jam.
And then what do you call it? My game store at the time, they said, "Oh, you play Twilight 2000. You should check this out." And they had this box set called Phoenix Command,
Yes. Yeah.
and I was just like, "What is this?" And it was like the next step of Twilight 2000, where they took the concept of realistic warfare and like made endless tables and charts, like if you got this kind of hit with this kind of weapon, you went to this next chart for certain ballistic damage, and that damage did, you had to roll on another chart that would tell you how bad or how fast you were bleeding out. And it was just like, we tried it once and it was unplayable.
It's unplayable.
It was unplayable, but like Twilight 2000, that was crazy. Um, the first time I ever saw a tow missile in the army, I was like, "Oh my god, that's what that is!" And I knew it from Twilight 2000. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, and like the sort of world background on Twilight Zone 2000 was very deep. Like they really got into it.
Yeah, that whole like Red Dawn kind of thing, where humanity has just
Yeah.
crippled itself, and it's just it's like Walking Dead without the zombies.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just
Exactly.
mankind sucks enough. But we on one of the other podcasts I work on, the Banff podcast, we interviewed the guys that did Battle Lords of the 23rd Century. And that game is hysterical. They have it's just enough like space opera and space marine to get the hardcores, with just enough comedy, like for that gallows humor. They have this race. It's this giant lizard-like race that look like they could bench press Buicks and shot put, small tow trucks. And they have this way of killing people in power armor called the Death Noogie. And it was a term that was used by like the good guy soldiers when they were fighting a war against these guys, because of what they would do is, because of their enhanced strength, they would tackle somebody in power armor and ram their like alligator fist into the top of the helmet and crush the pilot inside of the mech. But when you looked at it outside, it looked like he was getting a noogie, like he was you just got attacked by the school bully and you're about to get stuffed in a locker. And
Yikes.
yeah, they just came out with a new edition, and let me tell you, the art is gorgeous, unbelievably gorgeous. But yeah, we just interviewed
Cover.
him. What's that?
Yeah. Cover is 90% a buy decision.
Oh my
And
god.
the art is a cover inside. A game at face value is very daunting and kind of boring, and that art carries your motivation through wanting to learn the rules and getting excited about it, and then also visually like creating the world. So art is so important, but of course.
Yeah, you remember the first time you saw like Larry Elmore art?
Oh yeah, and I remember that whole like renaissance, like where it shifted away from Errol and those guys to Larry Elmore art, which was really like AD&D, I think,
Yeah.
and then and especially like Dragon Lunch, um, and that's when it just got like super epic and gorgeous. And it was interesting for James to come in and say, "Oh, we just did that for women. We wanted to," and he was, it's women are the biggest reading group, but like none of the people that like I knew ever played any Dragonlance modules or anything like that. None of that was interesting to us. But I remember like it was just a phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah, and you saw it in like a bunch of magazines and stuff like that, like sci-fi magazines.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed Lord of the Rings, here's your next read.
Yeah, or you'd go to like Walden Books and they'd have the Dragonlance calendar, and it was just basically softcore porn.
Right? Because you had oh god, what was her name? Everybody was like, you had I think her name was River Moon or something like that. She was
Yeah.
Gold Moon.
Tiara, yeah, all those.
Yep. But like nobody was into her because she was the good girl. Everybody was like down with the one that was like with the dark forces, Kitiara.
Yep.
And she had this crazy 1980s perm with a headband separating it, and like
Yeah.
you at any moment, even though this chick was always in full plate mail, you could just almost feel that like at any moment she would bust out on like 1980s roller skates or something like that. It was that kind of vibe,
Yeah.
but like everybody was into that chick. It was like, ooh, Kitiara's on the cover and blah blah blah, and then of course you had what's his face, Lord Soth, who was the Death Knight, the Knight of the Black Rose. I was like, dude, this dude is like tragic. This is like fantasy Darth Vader if like the high school prom king had his prom queen murdered in front of him. This is awful. So like, yeah, they especially with the art, they knew how to kind of capture you with the art. So yeah, they did a good job with that stuff, even though, like I said, that nobody wanted to play it because Kender.
Well, it had really strange requirements. It was sort of the first true evidence of a railroading dungeon. You had to go in this order. You had to go do these things like this. And yeah, I didn't know people who played it. I just knew everyone who bought it.
Yeah.
But there were huge groups that played it. I mean, a lot. And it had some fascinating things. It didn't fit the style for people who really wanted to go their own way and wanted to just go inside and out of things. Dragonlance wanted you to follow and figure out their plot. And I get it, that their books sold a fortune because they got people excited about that.
Hell yeah.
So speaking of art, I looked up some of Earl's art so I could have an answer because you asked what their favorite was. So I liked his. I looked it up. His Sorcerer's Brew and then his book cover, The Scourge of the Slave Lords. I know nothing about what those are in context to, but I liked the art.
Yeah,
So
cool
the
modules and stuff.
The Sorcerer's Brew is some guy in a lab. It's like I'm picturing Wordness character doing, just pouring potions.
The Slave Lords was a tournament series, one of the best. And it was 4 different tournament rounds, and they were very hard. I was lucky enough to play in those, and I played this female dwarf, Elwida, and it was tough. It was scored very hard, and it was very competitive, but it was a blast. They were done very well, and Earl did a bunch of the stuff to it, and it was a fantastic series. Really, tournament stuff is fun.
He did a lot of the great covers. He did the Drow covers.
He did Barrier.
Barrier Peaks is a great cover that he did.
He did Fiend Folio too, right?
No,
that wasn't his cover.
No.
But he did pieces in that though, right?
They all did pieces.
European. The big push that got people angry was they either really loved or really hated the Fiend Folio art, but they had some really cool stuff in there.
Oh yeah.
I think his most famous one is the basic and advanced set cover for basic D&D or whatever that's called. Where I don't even know what version of that is, but the sorceress and the fighter fighting the Hydra, and then the advanced version is a wizard looking through a searing, watching the battle. But like that's great art right there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was cool having him on the show today, and then he was throwing a little like voice acting and accent in his character toward the end.
Oh yeah, that's very him. When I went to that convention with him and played D&D, which we did on Twitch, and that was about 2 years ago. Like he just really gets into the voices, like, and you're kind of like you're like he really gets into them. And the cool thing too is he draws stuff for his dungeons. So like you're literally like, oh, and he draws kind of like on your character sheet and things like that. So you're literally getting like Aero Lotus stuff, and it's like if you go over to his Facebook page, he has a real following. Like people really dig his stuff, and I wanted to get a cover for him from a project, and so I was up in Napa, and he lives in the Bay Area. And I said, hey, why don't I come through and let's have lunch and let's talk about something. And I had him do a commission for the original Forgotten Ruin game and its original iteration. But now it's obviously that product has changed, and so we've got to modify that. But it was a picture of James and Gary as their characters talking in a garden. And so we were out to dinner. We had a good time. And I said, "Are you on Facebook or anything?" And he's like, "No, I just don't do Facebook." I'm like, you got a huge following on Facebook." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And he's very kind of unaware of who he is. It's very interesting. Like his story is, at 17 years old, I think he graduated high school. He just went to Wisconsin and showed up and said, "I want to draw for Dungeons and Dragons."
Oh, that's dope.
And yeah, and he just like they kind of gave him an audition, I guess. And then he just spent a few years there. And then he, like some of the details of his story are a little unclear. Um, but he basically says, like I made a decision to leave and go do something else. And that was kind of, if I don't want to talk out of school, but he kind of indicated that he kind of wish he had not done that. And then he just kind of, he ended up in the Bay Area, which is where he's from, basically designing products and games for people. And then, like, when I met him, kind of like one of the companies that he was working for just kind of up and folded. And he was like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, and people would call him from time to time and say, hey, can you give me art or whatever? But he kind of said to me, he's like, no one really kind of wants to pay my rate or my price. And artists are kind of, you probably understand this well, are kind of notoriously bad at, if they're not forthright, they're very bad at negotiating their rates.
Yeah.
And I said, you just got to say what your rate is. And I said, you're a legend. You don't have to be doing pieces at this rate. You could be doing it at this rate. And you just have to learn the power of saying no. And they'll come and pay for it, or they won't. And don't, if they're already.
Uh-oh.
Oops.
He probably knocked out his microphone.
Could be. Here's an interesting thing. Here is the picture he drew for his character.
Uh,
So what was the story with the weird shaping and all that he was talking about?
See? That's what it looks like.
That's awesome.
Kind of crazy. Pretty cool.
So did we get an answer for the whole story with that?
With what?
With the weird character look, and I'm wider than I am tall or whatever.
Well, it's just his thing.
Probably a super like buff dude rather than the string bean, of like a guy who's just hunched over a desk all the time.
We could definitely arm wrestle since we both have an 8 strength. So it'll be a fair fight at least. I'll have to poison him. Oops.
Can you hear me? Am I back?
Yes, you are back.
Okay. So here's the deal with his characters. He has this long-running campaign that he's been running for over 30 years.
Really?
And it's called, I want to say it's called the Deadlands or something like that. So in Errol's world, you have race body parts. So you have to remember, he has a very interesting person. Like, as in, like, he loves monsters and sort of Frankenstein concepts and Cthulhu. So you don't play a dwarf, you play a character who has a human torso and a dwarf legs. Like that, he loves that stuff. So like when I played in his game, and I met like his best friend goes to all his games and everything like that. And his best friend has played D&D with him since they were 12 years old. And he's like, awesome. Oh yeah, he's like, he has this whole world, and it's kind of like an underworld, and you go and you play there, and like it was but it's like his character was very him. It's strange and unusual. He only draws strange and unusual characters. He like rarely draws like classic hero type people.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody's kind of malformed and stuff like that, and which is kind of what he likes.
well, that's like the guy who does Hellboy.
Yeah,
His characters were always hunched or very pronounced. I heard a great interview with him. Guy's name is Mike Mignola. He's a really interesting guy, and he said, the reason that my style is the way it is because I just hate drawing backgrounds. He goes, the most interesting part about any drawing is the person in it. He goes, buildings and cathedrals, and no matter how pretty they are never as interesting as the people who fill them. He's like, so I use a lot of shadow, I use a lot of black ink, and my characters pop because I don't give any love to the backgrounds. And when you see like a Mignola piece, even when he did The Witcher, he did a 6-issue run on The Witcher. His art was astounding because even though it was about like a haunted house, um, like in a swamp, the swamp really never got any of his brush. It was more like the house and the people that were in it because just as much as the people, the house itself was a character, and it was just, oh god, it was really really good. So yeah, guys who have that thought process and draw like that, I'm so envious of because you can just tell that even when they're down, like that, the pencil is down and they're not doing anything, they're still thinking
yeah,
about those things.
yeah, and like we work with an artist in Galaxy's Edge, Tommaso, who it lives in Italy, and he cranks out work as fast as you want it. Like Tommaso, like you say, I want a Legionnaire doing this thing, and like the next day he's got concept sketches, and on day two he's finished.
That's
And
fantastic.
like I worked with Pascal Blanche for Strange Company, and he literally creates 3D models of his covers, and he had it done inside a week.
Oh wow,
Errol only paint. He still paints. Like he doesn't do
that's
computer stuff or
crazy.
anything like that. So he like when he said, "Oh, I have two paintings I'm working on," he's probably been working on those for 4 months. Like
Oof.
he does not work fast. He only takes a few commissions every year, and so but it's very him. It's very specific. What he does, and like I had him do a cover for a fantasy novel that I wanted to do that had a three-headed mushroom giant and a fighter and a sorceress fighting him, and he just got really psychedelic and trippy and crazy with it, and came back, and he even asked me, he's like, when are you going to use that cover? And I'm like, oh, I got something. So
Are we gonna see that book?
yeah, I think, I mean, I think so. Like like I had this idea of, I wanted to go basically tell about a group of adventurers who were kind of mercenaries. Did I get cut off again?
No, you're here. Yeah,
Uh,
I think your system switched to a different microphone because your pitch changed.
okay.
But yeah, we heard everything you said.
Okay. So I had this idea like of having a group of adventurers who were kind of mercenaries, and they would basically go through my riffs on the classic dungeon modules. And so I had him do one that was basically Cave of Horrors, or not Cave of
Tomb
Horrors,
of
but
Horrors.
no, oh yeah, it was. That's right. It was going to be a riff on Tomb of Horrors, and I was going to call it Cave of Horrors. And I had about like 9 covers that I wanted to do, and so I wrote about 60,000 words in that, and had him do the cover. And then I'm like, okay, I'll need another cover. And he's like, oh, I won't be able to do another commission for half a year. And I'm like, oh, okay, so
Oof.
this is because I'm not going to publish a book in that series unless I've got 3 ready to go. So I've got to
Right.
kind of wait for him to and then I think, what did I have? I had, my next one was going to be a riff on Isle of Dread. And then the third one, I think it was going to be about the Giants. So, that's a slow burn project. But yeah, I'll show that art on the show sometimes, because like next time he plays, I'll just show it. But without, I got some crappy titling work done on it that I don't like. But the picture itself is beautiful.
The chat is saying that they're very happy that you came back. They thought Newsom sent a hit team out for you.
Yeah, that dick.
Or that you had gotten high from some of those California fires, because you never know what wacky tobacco they're burning.
That's the thing I think we all complain about in California now is like, and it's maybe it's gotten a little better since COVID because you're not around people, but like when you're in LA, everybody is high all the you are always getting a contact high at all times because everybody is now on drugs. Everything's legal. And I come from like a generation where like if you smoked pot, like it had to be on the DL, it had to be on the down low. And I'm not saying I smoked pot or anything like that, but I'm saying that was half the fun was committing a crime. Like I don't know that smoking pot now would be any fun if it's totally legal. Like what's the fun in that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's just me.
Yeah, they have those cities in what is it, Amsterdam? They just
Yeah,
drug cities, and that's where if you want to go do that stuff, that's where you go do it. Everywhere
but
else,
that's but but that's the West Coast now. Like I mean, Portland just made everything legal. But like in
yeah.
LA, like there's I've talked to cops. They're not busting anybody on any kind of drug charge.
Oof.
And so that's why it's a disaster here. But yeah, like there's sometimes in LA where it's nonstop. Like the smell of dope is so like you're like geez, and once you like because I'm a former alcoholic. Once you get sober in your life, it's weird how zero tolerance you have for any kind of drug or alcohol abuse. Like you should have mercy because you've been through that and everything like that. But it's weird that you don't. Like you just get mad and angry and seething at everybody, and you're like I should call the cops, and then you remember like the cops don't care if the
Yep.
kids are getting high. They're not showing up. So you
Craziness.
know. But I still drive by and go,
It's
look at
that
that
reefer
guy doing that.
madness.
Yeah, pretty much. Like when did I get old? But I don't care.
We played D&D with a kid that used to get high right before, and after like the third session, we were like, look, you're not a good fit. He's like, what do you mean? You're breaking up with me on my D&D group? And I'm like, dude, it's usually 15 to 20 minutes before you fall asleep, and then you wake up about an hour into the game session, kicking your feet. You knock everything over on your rampant scramp to go and find Doritos. It's just no, no. So he was
Yeah.
all upset. Can't believe you're kicking me out because I smoke a little pot. It's like, no, you didn't smoke a little pot. You smoked all the pot. And then we wouldn't care if you came in high. We just don't want you to fall asleep and then wake up
Yeah.
like in a you need to binge something quick. And then of course there's one time where he sits down to roll some dice, falls asleep at the table, the pizza shows up, and he like eats an entire like half a pizza by himself. We're like, dude, what are you doing?
No, and the mental acuity is just not
Oh
there.
yeah.
But that's I feel I would like to know what happened to that person because that's quite a badge to
Yeah.
wear through life in the 80s. In the 80s, I was kicked out of D&D. You have to understand, like, no one kicked anybody out of D&D in the 80s.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like I was talking about this guys luring you in to play games. Like, if you wanted to play D&D, like, we were going to let you. We didn't have. No one wanted to play.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. Yeah. So to have earned the distinction of being kicked out of D&D, that's like Adam Carolla saying getting fired from Taco Bell. Not Taco Bell material.
Right.
I've seen that skit.
Yeah, we had. I've only had two that we kicked out. We kicked out him because he, like I said, he would wake up in a rage, like looking for Twinkies and tacos and anything he could get his mouth around, and we're like, bro, just go away. You're more of a disruption. We don't care that you're high. We just care that you're sedate. But then we had the other guy. It was in the army, and like blatantly just like hating on my roommate because my roommate was Filipino and was just like saying some nasty shit, and I'm like, nah, I don't want you here, just go. He's like, well,
Yeah.
where else are you gonna find somebody? I'm like, dude, this is my roommate. I had lunch with his family a week ago. Don't be that guy. Just go.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. But I mean, other than that, like most stuff, I mean, you had the guy with like the the 3 foot long nose hair that would sit down, and you tolerate that dude. You had the girl that what do you call it? Ate more stuff than any four dudes around the table and would burp louder than everybody, and she was welcome with open arms, and it was you know uh, everybody else. But it's like, just don't be rude, and don't be disruptive. you know but yeah, that was way back in the way back.
And roll dice and try not to walk us into the anti-magic portal.
Put swords in the bag of holding.
They know.
So in the old days, would they have like uninvited me from the party and be like, "No, you're not our type"?
No, nothing like that.
Things like that are common. It's not a thing.
Yeah, in the old days, you would have got like, whoa, bro, what do you do, bro? And then they would have pulled you aside and been like, no, you are not taking this magic item because you're drunk. So like, but yeah, you would have been you totally welcome. Yeah, everybody would have just pulled you in and give you the big
It's
hug.
funny, you talk more about the stories of deaths and stuff like that happened than the times that you succeeded, because those just turn out to be more fun. Like bad dice rolls, as Andrew was saying, those are a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
Break like at the heart of all mankind, we're all goblins. We do love to break shit.
Oh yeah. The we had an instance where a guy was we had a monk, and one of the fighters had fallen into a pit with spikes, and the monk was like, I'm super fast, I can catch him. So the DM was like, all right, well, let's make some rolls and we'll see what happens. And the party had split, so it was just these two dudes in this one section of the dungeon. And as he's trying to pull the guy up, now the guy is in plate mail, he's carrying a whole bunch of stuff on his back, he's super heavy, and the monk is just like, this skinny, like, kung fu dude who's trying to hoist up like 300-400 pounds, and he's not built for the job he's trying to accomplish. And here comes this gelatinous cube down the hallway, and they're rolling, trying to. Eventually, the gelatinous cube ate the monk, and then the dude dropped into the spikes. And we were just like, when we talk about that, because I still talk to those cats, and they're like, yeah. So as long as there's no gelatinous cube, we'll be cool. And it's like, oh man, I remember that. That was awful.
That's a great trap.
Yeah, it was fun, and it only really worked because of the two characters that had gone off on their own. If the rest of us had been there, we wouldn't have had a problem. We would have just hoisted them up and moved around the obstruction, and gotten out of the hallway so the gelatinous cube could go through. And
Never split the party.
yeah, but it was funny. Years later, one of the guys calls me up, and he's like, dude, did you know how genius those dudes were back then and how much drugs they had to do to see into the future? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, so there's this thing. It's called a Roomba. It's a robot that cleans your house. Dude, it's like a gelatinous cube that cleaned the dungeon of all the dead people. They knew. I'm like, what did you either eat or smoke? But yeah, you think about that, and it's like, oh my god, they had Roombas in D&D before there were Roombas in real life. That's badass.
I think wizards can get up to some crazy stuff.
We're getting there.
He denies nothing. You notice.
Yeah.
I got nothing to deny. I've been scheming for last 2 months.
I will say you seem. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, JR.
I was gonna say you definitely impressed Arrow with all of your spells. He seemed to dig it.
Yeah, he seemed to.
Yeah, it was like D&D Rockstar, man. You're firing on all cylinders.
I was actually pretty coherent this afternoon. It's biting me now, but I was actually the most coherent I've been all week, so that was good. It was fun. It was for sure fun.
So what are we looking forward
A lot
to
of
this weekend?
you guys to chew on. We've got to figure out. There's a lot of mysteries we have to make sense out of that Jim forgot about that I wrote down.
But
Are
that
you talking about from today's session specifically, or
Yeah.
just in general?
So we have a cauldron of oversized gold pieces. Each piece is as big as our hand. If that's true, that's worth a hell of a lot more than a single gold piece. We have 5,000 of those that I dug out. So what the hell are those things worth? So that's a thing. Let me see here. I'll tell you some of the mysteries because the audience might appreciate them.
we got those black gems that do the poison nullification.
Let's see.
And Andrew was nice enough to give me his after I used mine because he has the poison resistance.
Yeah, I'm immune. And so I'm glad you have it. And now you've got an extra one, which is fun. We got Magic Jar Teddy Ruxpin. We've got the Asgardian daggers. We've got the staves of hold anything. That's interesting. We've got 6 male black unicorns that we now own. We didn't get a quest score, so we'll have to ask him for that. For rescuing Sandra, you normally get a number assigned for a quest score. We didn't get numbers for capturing Teddy Ruxpin. So, a bunch of interesting things to figure out.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
I definitely know I got the level up, and I'll be curious to see where everyone is once you're done auditing all of their stuff.
I'm gonna audit all the sheets and put them into the calculator so I can at least look and see what the sheets tell us.
So
then,
Nick, what? Oh, go ahead.
No, and then I'll just meet with you guys on one-on-one because you probably all have a bunch of side stuff that I'm not smart enough to remember or privy to.
So Nick, what program were you using that was wrong when you compared to the mind of Wordna?
What pro? Oh, it's called Character Creator. Let me look through my phone real quick.
Oh, Character Creator, yeah.
No, Character Generator or something.
There's a hand of the generator systems. Well,
Yeah.
mine's just a spreadsheet, so all I do is have the numbers fill in, autofill by bucket, and you have to remember that we have a group award, which is monsters. We have a 10% variable for the people who get 10%. We have individual awards, we have magic items, and we have money. All of those things. And then you have sometimes things he assigns after the fact. So those 6 variables radically change your numbers.
Okay. Well, we will have to go through that.
Yeah. I think
James is going to come back one day and he's like, "We're all level 23. Thank you, Wordna."
He'll yell at me because I take a lot of notes, and I mean it's just because we have so many players in the guild, we have a lot to track, and so we have assigned every session has what's called a scribe, and so the scribe, now that Jim is actually playing in the guild at full time, I think he's finding it sort of fascinating to watch the mechanics. Our people have to, just like I do, say spells. If you're a wizard, you make up your own language, and that's you have spell cards, and that has everything written down. And for the priests, they either chant or sing them. So it's very complicated. And but people have a blast because all you do is get a description of it. You never know the name of it unless you know the magic, which makes it a lot more fun. And we really focus on role playing, which is interesting. And so I think that's good for Jim. And now he's getting into it, which is a riot to watch him play. So good stuff. You guys can sit in if you ever want to watch.
I would, I think. Once I finish this book and Jason is not mad at me anymore.
And we vote tomorrow night. The guild masters, the GMs for each guild votes tomorrow night to find out if they're going to allow us to start streaming this stuff and let it be seen publicly. So that'll be an interesting conversation tomorrow. Who knows?
You want to borrow my taser? I think I just killed him.
Blow up all over the place. Oh.
So step one is to get you over this Rona.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to get the retests tomorrow, so that's going to be bad. So I'm not excited about that.
Are you taking lots of vitamin D?
Oh, my God. The numbers I'm pumping in. It's good. It's just control of the fever, determines my energy level. I was right at the edge of 100 for the last 3 days, so that's been really good because I can think coherently. Higher numbers, you're just and damn tired. So too many hours.
And the person who infected you, they're all better now?
No. Two of my children have it, and
Oh man.
my wife, and of course, well, we don't know if she's got it, but her symptoms are extremely bad at the moment and getting worse. So I'm hopeful. She tested negative though, so that was a freaking miracle. So, but
Right
she's
on.
probably gonna get retested too. So we'll see. Not good stuff for the having no immune system. Not fun.
And yet you still sit down and play with us and go through step by steps on how to's like D&D for dummies and
Oh well, this
That's
stuff.
kind of the bummer thing about being sick is you sit there and there's nothing to do but be sick. Or you could do something. But like for me, I get so wiped out. I just sit there and go, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. I'm
I don't have
sick,
the
I'm
time.
sick, I'm sick.
I have too many people up there, so I don't have the time. So,
Yeah.
but I'm on the edge right now because it's hard to hold it all together some nights. So we'll see.
Well, maybe we should wrap this up and let you get some rest.
Right
Well, I
on.
only
Maybe-
have 4 hours till Taiwan gets online. So, actually 2 hours now. So you're right. That would be a good idea.
Dear Lord, and I thought I had the market cornered on no sleep. We want to thank the chat for coming out and spending some time as we recount the zany mishaps of the day. We are just proud that JR didn't stray from the beaten path and stick something uncomfortable in somewhere unpleasant.
He's got the royal wedding. He's definitely done well.
So we appreciate everybody coming out, and we'll catch you next time when sci-fi writers are playing old school D&D.
Thank you all.
Indeed.
Good night.